Who's speaking up for the baby?
No religion, no politics, no nothing, just healthcare.
A healthcare debate in the heart of Imperial County, the two different views of a reproductive health clinic marking its first anniversary.
It's almost as if people throw the technology to the lions, and if it survives the adult industry, somehow it's battle-hardened enough for everybody else.
Virtual reality gets a sexy upgrade, the gamers who are testing it out, and the San Diego company that is leading the way. She's not a backpack. Meet one of the cutest additions to the San Diego Zoo. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Amitha Sharma. The Marine Corps is investigating two Camp Pendleton Marines for a Facebook post referencing last weekend's shooting at a gay nightclub in Orlando. The post showed a photo of a corporal in uniform with an assault rifle. It was captioned, quote, "coming to a gay bar near you." Marine officials say they have tracked down the person who posted it and someone who reposted it in a private Facebook group. The Corps says such postings go against Marine Corps values and could lead to misconduct charges. It is a tragic scene that's played out time and again during his presidency. President Obama met today with the relatives of people killed in yet another mass shooting. The president traveled to Orlando, Florida to soothe and grieve with the relatives of the 49 people killed in a shooting at a gay nightclub 4 days ago. Obama said the words he heard from the victims' families were echoes from the past.
I held and hugged grieving family members and parents, and they asked, why does this keep happening? And they pleaded that we do more to stop the carnage.
The president said that has to include tighter gun laws. Strong winds are fueling a wildfire near Santa Barbara today. Hundreds of firefighters are working on the so-called Sherpa fire. It's expanding deeper into the Los Padres National Forest. The fire burned at least 1,200 acres since yesterday afternoon. Sustained winds of up to 40 miles per hour fanned the flames near Highway 101, which prompted authorities to close it for part of the morning. Nearby communities were under voluntary evacuation orders. Base officials say a sewage spill went undetected on Camp Pendleton for nearly 3 years and likely spilled more than 800,000 gallons of sewage onto property in the northwestern reaches of the base. No health problems or risks were reported. The leak was discovered during an inspection 2 weeks ago and likely stemmed from a repair project in 2013. The contaminated discharge evidently did not reach nearby natural waterways. San Diego is mulling over whether an alternative energy program called Community Choice Aggregation will help it reach its goal of using 100% renewable energy. Under state law, San Diego Gas and Electric is not allowed to lobby for or against community choice unless it sets up an independent marketing district. This week, SDG&E won state approval to do just that. Its marketing district would be funded by shareholders, not ratepayers. Environmental activist Nicole Capritz says SDG&E's move shows it will try to stop community choice.
SDG&E has decided to fight against the city of San Diego and their 100% clean energy goal. They decided to fight against the community, and they decided to fight against families and families' ability to have choice.
In a statement, an SDG&E spokeswoman said the utility is reviewing the state's decision. She says the district will support a more robust conversation about the region's energy future. San Diegans reduced water consumption by 26% last month. The County Water Authority says it was the second straight month of strong conservation throughout the region. Under the state's new formula, San Diego will not be subjected to state-mandated water use reductions from this month through January of next year. Officials say the region has enough water for the next 3 years, even if they are dry. San Diego voters could get a chance to vote in November on voting. The Independent Voter Project wants to do away with outright victories in primary elections in the city. Instead, they'd like the top two candidates to advance to the November general election, no matter what percentage of the vote they received. Several candidates won more than 50% of the vote in last week's primary. They will forego a runoff, including Mayor Kevin Faulconer and two councilmen. Opponents of the plan say it will make elections more expensive. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports 3 babies have been born in the U.S. and birth defects caused by the Zika virus. Today's report is the first accounting of pregnancy outcomes that involve the virus. The CDC says 234 pregnant women in the country, residents and visitors, have been diagnosed with Zika. All the cases are connected to travel to areas with outbreaks. There has been no spread of the virus by mosquitoes in the U.S. Philadelphia has become the first major American city to pass a soda tax, despite a multi-million-dollar campaign by the beverage industry to block it. The city will impose a 1.5-cent per ounce tax on sugary and diet beverages. Berkeley is the only other U.S. city with such a tax. Other proposals have been defeated in more than 30 cities and states, including San Francisco and California. Public health research at San Diego State has gotten a big financial shot in the arm. From our North County Bureau, KPBS health reporter Kenny Goldberg says the National Institutes of Health have awarded the school a $10 million endowment.
The grant does not fund any specific research projects at San Diego State. School officials say they'll use the $10 million grant to build up their research networks, to make it easier for people in different disciplines to collaborate. SDSU math professor Jose Castillo says the money will make a big difference.
So this will develop the infrastructure to move data from the fields to the university researchers and help everybody, not just me, to leverage all this infrastructure in the research.
SDSU hopes to use the grant to advance its various investigations into health disparities. Kenny Goldberg, KPBS News.
Mexico is taking a big step to overhaul its justice system. This week is the deadline for Mexican courts to switch from a written trial system to an oral trial system similar to the U.S. It's expected to make the country's justice system more transparent. Trials will be open to the public and recorded on video, and a 3-judge panel will be in charge of sentencing instead of just a single judge making decisions. The mystery of why Egypt Air Flight 804 plummeted into the Mediterranean last month may be closer to being solved. The crash killed all 66 people on board. Authorities say they have recovered the cockpit voice recorder from the jetliner. The device contains pilot conversations and other cockpit sounds. Investigators are still looking for the plane's black box. It holds details on how the plane was working, its speed and altitude. Statistics describe an America that has nearly recovered from the Great Depression, but in a continuing series called Divided America, the Associated Press finds wealth is flowing disproportionately to the rich. Reporter John Moan says that's skewing the data used to measure economic health.
Raul Sanchez's life is a series of interviews and meetings.
All right, it's interview time.
He was laid off from his oil and gas job in engineering operations more than a year ago.
Every night with thoughts in my mind about when will I be able to land a job. Praying to God, Father God, please give me a job.
Sanchez is a 44-year-old single father and a casualty of low oil prices. He's among the tens of thousands of white and blue-collar workers struggling to find a job.
Because of the layoffs, I have not been able to afford this home. I leased it out. Now I'm actually going to sell my house.
He's exhausted unemployment pay, his savings, and increasingly his retirement money.
So I'm an older gentleman moving in with Dad and Mom. And it's kind of interesting because the rules still apply as I'm just like when I was a teenager living with my parents.
In Chicago, Vanessa Jackson is having to settle for less, a lot less.
The new normal for me is going from making $8,000 a month to making, in most months, less than $2,000, going from a full-time job to a part-time job.
The 60-year-old woman is one of many, making less than before they lost their jobs in the Great Recession.
I jumped on the career ladder and I moved up the career ladder rapidly, and I never expected that I would have to go down that ladder.
The Associated Press looked at a variety of economic statistics from 2008 to 2014 and found that the averages don't tell the complete story. Average household income experienced only modest gains, only 0.7%, but that figures in wealth gains by the top 10% of households. Middle and lower income households actually saw income declines. As for job growth, the AP found the recovery was uneven. Higher and low-paying jobs increased, but there are less middle-income jobs, the bulk of the growth occurring in the wealthiest 1/5 of American zip codes.
There's been a massive narrowing down of the number of counties that are actually participating in positive job and business growth to an unprecedented degree.
Economic analyst John Lettieri says achieving the American dream depends on what part of the country is home.
When you see fewer and fewer places accounting for more of the national pie of growth, it means that more geographies are left out and that people there are really left behind.
Raul Sanchez just wants to catch up.
I've never had the culture of something is beneath me.
Even advertising himself for work. An impeccably dressed, walking, talking billboard handing out resumes. His full-time job of looking for work going on for a year. John Moan, Associated Press, Houston.
It looks like beach weather will head back to San Diego this weekend. Steph Davis says it will remain warm but breezy along the coast. Temperatures in the desert will continue to surpass the century mark. That's tonight on the KPBS Weather Reports.
Happy Thursday, everyone. We are quickly approaching the weekend and the weather looking good, remaining quiet all across the southwestern United States, especially across Southern California. We are looking at dry and seasonable conditions. Satellite and radar not picking up on a whole lot here across much of the region, and that's the way we will stay as we roll into our Thursday night. So we're looking at clear skies tonight in Borrego Springs as your low temperature falls to 64 degrees. Mid-40s tonight in Mount Laguna and dry. 51 and quiet in Alpine. Upper 40s in Ramona with a couple of patchy clouds. 56 in Oceanside. And quiet conditions in San Diego with your overnight low at 63 degrees. We're wrapping up the work week tomorrow for our Friday. Nice all across the southwest from the Four Corners towards coastal California. Seasonable and dry. So really nothing to complain about weather-wise over the next several days as we look forward to the weekend. Here's a look at your 5-day outlook for the coast. Partly cloudy Friday, high temperature 75. Fog breaking for sunshine Saturday and Sunday with your daytime high 78 Saturday. Then we'll jump significantly Sunday with highs in the mid-80s. Sunny, very warm Monday and Tuesday. Daytime high at the coast in the mid to upper 80s. Looking at your 5-day outlook inland, partly cloudy Friday, fog to sunshine Saturday with daytime highs in the mid-70s. Same deal here. Temperatures will jump as we look ahead to Sunday. Mostly sunny and warm. Your high temperature is 83 degrees. Similar conditions early next week for your Monday. Plenty of sunshine Tuesday inland with your high temperature breaking into the low 80s. Taking a peek at your 5-day outlook across the mountains. Sunny and nice on Friday. High temperature comfortably mild at 78 degrees. Mostly sunny and 85 Saturday. Then it gets hot as we look ahead to Sunday with daytime highs in the mid-90s. Sunshine and mid-90s temperatures continue into your Monday. 93 with partial sunshine in the mountains for your Tuesday. Wrapping things up with your 5-day outlooks for the deserts. Brilliant sunshine Friday and mild with highs at 101. Sure going to be warm out there Saturday. Your high is 107. Then we get very hot in the deserts Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Take a look at these daytime highs. 115, 119, 115 once again. Please do exercise caution in this extreme heat. Make sure to check if you have anyone elderly or make sure to keep a special eye out for those pets. Steph Davis, KPBS News.
California is one of the most liberal states when it comes to access to birth control and abortion, but you wouldn't know it in Imperial County, where religious groups unsuccessfully tried to prevent the region's first Planned Parenthood clinic from opening last year. KPBS health reporter Kenny Goldberg and video journalist Nick McVicker recently revisited the clinic and have this update.
Every other Monday morning in El Centro, there are two things you can count on. The Planned Parenthood clinic will open at 7:30, and protesters will be on the scene. Jesus Barros hangs out in the parking lot next to the clinic and tries to talk to women who are heading in to have abortions.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Sometimes Barros has to settle for speaking to husbands or boyfriends. Either way, Barros doesn't want to hear about a woman's right to choose.
We always reflect on the mother's body and all this. But there's the other side of the story. What about the baby? Who's speaking up for the baby? Do you think the baby wants to live?
The way Barros sees it, women just aren't properly educated.
It all starts in education. We need to teach what sex really is. Planned Parenthood is going to promote sex because there's no money promoting have no sex. There's absolutely no money in that. The money is contraceptives, but then if you're pregnant, there's always abortion, which is the bigger money. That's where they really seek to make the money in abortion.
Clinic manager Vivian Perez says Barros could use a little education himself. She explains Planned Parenthood is not in El Centro to make a profit. All of its services, including abortions and birth control, are provided whether the patient has any money or not. Perez says she respects protesters' right to express their opinions, but
if they were really truly concerned about reducing unintended pregnancies, they would work with us to provide birth control, to provide sexual health education. And quite honestly, our focus is not on the protesters, but more on the safety and security of our patients.
El Centro's Planned Parenthood clinic opened in May 2015, but it wasn't exactly welcomed with open arms. Imperial Valley's evangelical community led the opposition to the Planned Parenthood clinic last year, and they remain staunchly opposed to it. But there's one religious leader in town that has a different view.
So this is the sanctuary. And we really try to make it a sanctuary, a safe place.
Reverend Ron Griffin is the lead pastor at El Centro's First United Methodist Church. Griffin says he understands why most of the religious community opposes a clinic. But he says demonizing women who have abortions or use birth control is mean-spirited and counterproductive.
Both sides have important things to say. So let's address it that way rather than creating this false idea that it's us versus them.
What do your fellow religious leaders here say about that?
They don't really talk to me very much.
The protests and opposition aren't stopping Planned Parenthood, and they haven't prevented more than 2,000 people from coming in for care. Community college student Yulinda Garza gets her birth control pills at the clinic. Garza remembers one recent visit when a protester got right in her face.
This lady came up to me with a big poster of the Virgin Mary, and she's like, "Do you need help? I can help you." And I felt kind of judged, like if she thought I was getting an abortion or something, when in reality I was just getting my regular checkup just to make sure, things were fine. And, I told her, no, it's okay, and she just kept persisting to help me, and I'm like, I'm fine, I don't need help. There's nothing wrong with me.
Clinic manager Perez just shrugs her shoulders. She says when you get right down to it, all Planned Parenthood is doing is just providing access to care.
No religion, no politics, no nothing, just health care.
Kenny Goldberg, KPBS News.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next News Hour, we hear from locals on Brazil's murky waters and their deadly levels of pollution. That's Friday on the PBS News Hour.
It's a girl. San Diego Zoo's newest member of the koala family finally emerged from her mother's pouch. The joey was born in November, but her gender remained hidden by the pouch until now. Zookeepers say the young koala is healthy and has begun eating eucalyptus leaves. The San Diego Zoo has the largest and most successful breeding program outside of Australia. All-Star Weekend is 3 weeks away, and today Major League Baseball announced a free concert series before the big game at Petco Park. The shows will start on Friday, July 8th, and continue on Saturday, the 9th. The headliners are One Republic, Tori Kelly, and Gwen Stefani. Organizers for these standing room-only shows say tickets will be available online starting tomorrow morning. The concerts will kick off a weekend of activities leading up to baseball's All-Star Game on July 12th. This is a first for the gaming industry. An adult entertainment company from San Diego has an exhibit at a major gaming convention up in Los Angeles. Associated Press reporter Peter Banda says many see it as an inevitable expansion of virtual reality.
Visitors to this year's E3 convention are getting more than just a peek at colorful video game characters. Now they're seeing porn in virtual reality.
You can see angles when you're looking up and to the side, and when you look down. Like, it was kind of mind-blowing that that technology exists.
San Diego-based Naughty America is the first dedicated adult entertainment company to have an exhibit at the annual gaming convention. It's fitting since game developers have been working with virtual reality almost as soon as its introduction.
Gamers as a whole tend to be, early adopters of new technology, whether it be cutting-edge video cards or CPUs or the latest VR tech.
It's nice. The company's presence at E3 is seen as virtual reality expanding beyond where it started in video games.
And I think there's a kind of one hand washes the other relationship between the explorations, experiments and innovations that game makers do and the innovations that we see elsewhere in our practical use of technology elsewhere in our lives.
A technology being put to use by adult industry content providers.
Certainly, the adult industry is a driver of technology. It's almost as if people throw the technology to the lions, and if it survives the adult industry, somehow it's battle-hardened enough for everybody else, and that's what's happening here.
Gamers who may be investing in the latest technology now have other options for their devices in addition to gaming. Peter Banda, Associated Press, Los Angeles.
Our world is filled with display screens on our computers, our phones, and all kinds of gadgets we use every day. In tonight's SciTech Report, 2 researchers are developing nanotechnology to make those screens thinner and more flexible.
In a high-tech culture permeated by screens, it's hard to imagine the next advancement. Will the display be the size of a billboard or handheld? Could it impact the military as well as the fashion world? 2 University of Central Florida researchers think all this and more is possible. They want to perfect the nanoscience behind a color-tunable surface.
The project started 3 years ago when Debashish Chanda, my advisor, joined UCF. He had the seed idea of creating a color-tunable surface, much like that of an octopus or cephalopods.
They can create color and pattern on their skin, and if you see their color generation mechanism, they simply use the surrounding light and some kind of nanostructure on the surface to create color. So that actually was one of the motivations for us, that can we create color on a similar way where nature does.
The researchers are moving beyond rigid glass displays, typically found on current televisions, phones, and e-readers. They're creating a flexible surface with tunable pigment that mimics nature.
Here's an image of the helix array that we use for the demo. These are structures that are more similar to the ones that we use in our research, but these structures have very interesting interactions with light, and those are some of the aspects that we study.
We looked into how light gets coupled to this kind of metallic nanostructure surface and what happens to that light. So that was first we played with the fundamental aspect of coupling light to those nanostructures.
This one is to show the minimum size that we can achieve with the machine. So here we have an individual line that's about 100 nanometers. Light itself has a wavelength of around 500 to 700. So one wavelength of light would oscillate 5 times that. And by using patterning at the surface, we can kind of cheat that limit a little bit and create things even smaller. Here we have a line that's 60 nanometers.
So a process begins with that you need to make a nanostructure surface, and then you take that stamp and you can actually keep imprinting on another polymeric surface.
And from that, we can then deposit metal, which will be our plasmonic surface, which actually absorbs the light. And the liquid crystal, which is in contact with that metal surface, is what allows us to tune the color that we see from that surface. Here we have a sample hooked up to a microscope. And on top of the microscope, we have a camera, which is then sent to a computer where we can see the device working in real time. We have connected to the device 2 electrical leads, which will change the orientation of the liquid crystal and result in the tuning of the color. So liquid crystals are pretty unique in that they can change their orientation based on electric field. So by applying a voltage, we switch the direction of these liquid crystal molecules, and then that changes the color that is absorbed by that surface.
But significant challenges remain before these new screens become a mass market reality.
Think about the color you generate. You can always make them richer, better, nicer, more bright, vibrant. You can always think about adding various grayscale.
The things that still are challenges are things like angle dependence. You want to make sure that your display looks the same color if you're viewing it at 45 degrees or straight on.
So we are looking at those fundamental science aspects to improve the color generating mechanism from science standpoint.
What excites the researchers most about their process is the seemingly limitless possibilities.
If you have a phone, you say that you want to change color, you want it to be red one day, but you want it to be green the next, you can tune that actively.
You can also mount a patch of this display on your clothes. You can actually watch video played on it.
There's also defense applications, like for camouflage uniforms and things like that. It's very expensive to create different uniforms for different terrains, and so if you have one that maybe changes color, that'd be advantageous. It's not just focused on doing it once in a lab and then calling it a day. It's about finding the technology, or the fundamental science, and then trying to turn it into a real-life device.
That story comes to us via SciTech Now with support from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom on Morning Edition. A backlog at the U.S. border is putting a heavy load on Tijuana shelters as an influx of Haitian immigrants make their way north. And on Midday Edition, how are you spending Father's Day? We've got some ideas for you on Weekend Preview. That's at noon on KPBS Radio. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us and have a great evening.